Thanks for joining us for our Conference Championship Picks and Preview edition of Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. We're down to the final 3 games of the NFL season. We're going to miss it when it's gone, but we need to talk about the games as they're coming up. We need to make some more successful winning picks as the guys have been on fire during the playoffs. And we've got a couple of fantastic games to preview this week. Helping me with that to start off with is Alec Simpson for NFL Around the UK. He's a big San Francisco 49ers. Alec, welcome to Good Teams and Great Teams Cover. It's great to get you on. I can't believe it's been so long as well since
I know.
Taking us to get you on. So thanks for coming.
Cheers for the invite. I would say I'm busy, but I'm not. So do you know what I mean?
You can get the 4th seat. We've got 2 Cowboys and we can go 2 Niners as well.
You'd have to fight Gary for it.
Oh, that's true. So, yeah. And we've got out here to talk about San Francisco 49ers in particular, but their matchup against the Detroit Lions in the NFC Championship game. Before we do get stuck into it, Alec, obviously you've still got NFL Around the UK going. Where can we catch it, and when can we watch you guys?
Yeah, so as everyone knows, the NFL done on Let's Talk Sports Around the UK. We set it up with Dan, bless his soul, Dan Harris, and Gary's carried that on with me and Matty. So we kind of run that show. At the moment, we're focused on this kind of Sunday pre-game show because there's nothing out there in the UK for content pre-game show other than kind of the Sky show. So getting fans on the show, preview the game. We started it back end of the season. It seems to be going well. So I think we're going to continue that, and then we'll kind of pop up with a midweek show. But just hook on to Let's Talk Sport. You'll see us around there. And this week we've kind of full on. We've got all our supporters booked in for the weekend coming, so it should be very, very exciting.
Nice. It's been a great show. I've the pleasure you guys have had me on a few times, and when I've not been on, kind of watching and following along. So yeah, you guys are doing a great job of that. So yeah, so keep the momentum up with it. You know, you 3 guys work really well together as hosts, so it's a fun watch before the games.
Some really bad takes is all I'd say before the games.
You are famed for that, Alec. And maybe we'll get some about the NFC Championship game. I say the Niners take on the Lions, but let's have a little chat around last week first. So the Niners, I don't know if squeaked by is a fair assessment.
Never in doubt. Never in doubt.
I mean, how are you feeling watching the game, first of all?
Yeah, really calm, really relaxed. It was going back to 2019 season when we had like every game was squeaky bum down to the wire. We'll wheel out Robbie Gould to kick a field goal. That's what it felt like. And it's not good to be back there. I've much enjoyed this season. But at the end of the day, they got the job done. And that's I think that's been the slander on Brock Purdy. Can he get a final drive in him? Can he do this? And he's gone and done it. I think he's the first one to admit he didn't play very well the first 2 quarters and the first drive. But I think that comes down to Green Bay and Matt LaFleur. Like, he knew Kyle Shanahan likes to be in a rhythm. He wants to call on that first drive. He needs to call 5 to 8 plays to get in a rhythm. And watching it at home, I know if we free and out in the first one, then we're going to struggle because he's not scripting his plays. He's not in rhythm. So squeak by, definitely. I'm over it now. It took a few days. I was very, very tired. It was a 3:30 in the morning finish and struggling to get sleep on top of that. So, yeah, just about recovered.
It does take you out. Those late games do have a knock-on effect. I suppose, yeah, the Packers did such a good job, I think, of kind of just staying with it and keeping it close. And, you know, I was on the end of Jordan Love carving us up the week before. But yeah, you know, just an incredible job to keep that close. And they had the opportunities. But again, the key thing, the Niners got the job done. Purdy stepped up when he needed to. Where are you with Purdy? Because I still find it bizarre that we're still kind of talking about him, that can he do it? Can he do it in the big spots? Because I think he's been nothing short of incredible since he came in.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. And it's hard to say because then you go, I'm just a defensive Niner fan. Like, what do you know? You're going to defend him. But I suppose what doesn't help him is that Jimmy Garoppolo's been in the same position. Jimmy Garoppolo got us to the Super Bowl. So for him to overdo that, he needs to win a Super Bowl for people to say he's not a Jimmy Garoppolo. And the supporting cast around him is nonsense. Like, you go back to Steve Young, Joe Montana, they had a decent supporting cast with Jerry Rice, Stokes, That's not a bad. I mean, that's not bad at all. And they had a good defense with Ronnie Lott in kind of that building. So I think it's just NFL slander, American kind of. We need a headline. Let's pluck it out there. It's a good argument to have because it is a good conversation to have. So I think that's where it comes from. Yeah. But I'm in. I'm fully in. I'm fully in on the Brock train.
Yeah, I think I think he's been incredible, and especially expectations for the last pick of the 7th round, last pick of the draft. He certainly surpassed all those, but there is going to be that demand now to go win. But yeah, I think he's the right guy, and I find it insane that there's even a debate still now.
The only thing I do worry about is the wet weather games. The wet weather games do concern me because he's clearly not comfortable in wet weather games. But again, we're in San Francisco. I'll take that.
Yeah, you're not going to get them very often, right? So, yeah. And I think they're set up tough. I think Purdy's going to be the guy now for a very, very long time. I think it's going to take a lot to move away from him. Moving on from Saturday against the Packers, Detroit Lions are coming into town. Niners are relatively big favourites for this one. I think it's still the 7-point favourites, which I think might be a bit much. I'm a big fan of the Niners. I do think they are, up there with the Ravens as the best team in the NFL. I think 7's a bit much because the Lions are a very, very game team. How are you feeling about kind of it being Detroit and this whole momentum that they've got around not having had any kind of success for so long, 30 years without a playoff win? They've now won 2 in a week.
So this matchup all along, when we got into the playoffs, this is the matchup that scared the hell out of me. This is the one that I didn't want at all because of it. It's a lose-lose because of it. This is now the Lions of the America's team or any NFL's team. They want them to succeed. So your back's up against the wall. And also, Dan Campbell is like, as we've coined on our show, he's like Matty playing Madden. He'll go in, punt. He'll go for a fake punt on his own 20-yard line at 4th and 15. He's just a teenager playing Madden. So I just don't trust this matchup. I don't trust it. I think the 7 points is a little bit too much. I can't see us covering that.
Yeah, the Niners haven't been great at covering at home. I think it's 6 in a row they haven't covered. But it's not about that, is it? In the NFC Championship game, it's about winning. Whether it's by 1, whether it's by 10, it doesn't matter. Who worries you on the Lions, and where, I suppose, from your perspective, where are the big threats for the Lions in terms of the matchup with the Niners?
I think Jared Goff worries me a little bit because he knows this defense. All right, Steve Wilkes is a different defense, different setup, but he knows the pressure he's going to get. He's been hit by Bosa before. He's been hit by Armstead before. So that worries me a little bit as he knows the ins and outs. Amon-Ra Brown on the outside with his pace, he scares me as well. I hope Ward travels with him. We've seen that in a few other games where Travis Ward's traveled with their main receiver. I think that might happen. So that worries me. Their linebackers don't worry me too much. I think we can kind of get some of that, and then you got Hutchinson on our O-line, which again, our O-line can be a bit shaky, but it just depends on if we can run through the middle. So, but yeah, the biggest one is Goff. Once Goff's on fire, I think he's one of those that gets in the zone, and we may struggle.
Yeah, can start getting a rhythm and start carrying up. But I think that's key, being able to run through the middle. So the Lions and Niners, 2 of the top 3 run defenses in the NFL this year in terms of yards per game. So yeah, I think it's going to be real tight. I think that, I don't know if you agree, but I think that Niners rush defense is a bit. What's the fair way? Because they tend to, and have done in the year, got out to big leads quite early. Teams have to throw on them and run and get away from the run. So maybe it's not quite as telling, and that's going to be key. I think the Lions' commitment to the run is going to be key if they stick with it. You've got Gibbs and Montgomery, and to mix that up, I think that's where they can do some real damage. We saw Aaron Jones run all over San Francisco last week.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I would like to take the ball first. I know Carl's had this thing about not taking the ball first because he wants to get the double points, but we're going to score on the Lions anyway. So I'd rather get that ball in the first quarter, take it down and kind of put dominance on there and put Purdy at ease a little bit as well, like first drive, get him at ease. I don't think we will. But this game I can see being a high scoring game. I can see both quarterbacks coming out with 250 plus in yardage, and I can see them getting 100 yards running back as well between both Montgomery and Gibbs. Yeah. I can see them I can see this being, without giving too much away, I can see this being plus 30s on both sides.
Nice. Well, the over under's 51. I always get nervous with the overs I talk about on our show quite a lot. Like when that number gets to 50, I'm always just a little bit, because when the over under's 50 or above, it very rarely hits. So you get plenty of 50 plus point games in the NFL, but when the line is at 50 or above, it rarely hits. So,
I would take the risk on this. I would. I know, because the Niners are stingy, but it's playoff football, and I do think that Detroit. I think the way I think this game will go is the 49ers will go out to a lead. Detroit will come back with some crazy play, maybe an interception, and then we need to get back on top of the game again. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring game on the balance of that. It's just back and forth with points, and the Lions are going to need to score points.
Yeah, I mean, you thought Dan Campbell was happy to take risks before they're one game away from the Super Bowl. Now he's going to empty the chamber. Everything's coming.
Yeah, he'll go for. It wouldn't surprise me if he went for if he didn't kick a ball, he didn't kick a field goal, and he just went 2-point conversion all the way. It wouldn't surprise me if they came out with an onside kick. Like, generally wouldn't surprise me if he's got something like that up his sleeve, because we're a very functional team. The 49ers of Kyle, they don't like chaos. We're very functional, and that scares me. It scares the hell out of me.
It's interesting to see how they do, because it is very much you just mentioned that it's a clash of styles, it's a clash of philosophies. Kind of just this heavy metal style that the Lions have versus that kind of calm, considered way that the Niners play.
You're bang on there, Paul. Sorry, you are right. It is generally heavy metal versus orchestra.
Yeah,
this game is.
Yeah,
and that's how I'm going to coin it. It's very much like that. I like that.
Yeah, just a different, and I think they'll mesh so well to make for a real good game. Debo came out the game last week very early on. It seemed to take the Niners a long time to adjust to that last week, just from my observation of it. Debo's not practiced all week as of yet. Again, if Debo wasn't to play on Sunday, how do the Niners adjust?
I see that drop into 3 points if Debo doesn't play. I think he's due to light practice today. I think he'll play, but he can't be that much in the game plan because he wasn't in yesterday, and kind of the game plan's installed yesterday. Yeah. So he won't be taking, I don't think, a massive part or in terms of the game plan. I think we rely a little bit more on CMC. We rely a little bit more on Kittle, Ayuk, and we've got enough talent to spread the ball around. However, what that does stop is just having CMC and Debo in the backfield and spreading the linebackers. And that's where we lost that. And I think that was the game plan, was to spread their linebackers. And we tried it with John Jennings, but that's not going to work. So,
yeah, I mean, Judges came in, I think he caught like 6 balls for 60-odd yards last week. It's not as if he had a bad game, but I think just Debo's so integral in terms of the motions that they have, the kind of unpicking of the defense, being able to help Purdy read what defense the opposition are setting up because of the kind of the motion and the movement you get out of Debo. So, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I guess it's very different adjusting to that in game versus having a week to go, well, we know he's hurt, he might not make it. Yeah. We've kind of got to come up with a plan with a plan B. Apart from that, I think Niners got a relatively clean bill of health. I think, I think Armstead's practiced, Greenlaw's practiced. It all popped up on the injury report, and I think it's just Bosa and Trent Williams resting, whereas kind of the Lions are really banged up, and particularly on that offensive line. Is there a feeling that the Lions have been pretty good in protecting Goff, and on the offensive line, been great running the ball all year? How can the Niners sort of get at them and disrupt that pattern of play that they've had?
We've gone away from this pressure. So you see the sack numbers have dropped off with the 49ers with Steve Wilkes coming in. It's very much pressure, keep him in the pocket, make the quarterback make the mistake. So the guys had the conversation on the 49ers faithful guys, and Paul and Lee and Gareth had the conversation on the pod last week about what would you rather have? Would you rather have 20 sacks or 15 interceptions in the season? And I think we've gone to this, okay, let's put pressure on the QB and let him throw the ball kind of model, because of the QBs are getting the ball out quicker against us. So that's why the pressure's dropped off. But I do think we can get to the lines and we can get to Goff and we can push him off his station. But that all depends. I mean, Chase Young hasn't done a lot for us since coming over. I think he's had 3 sacks, but really hasn't been the game wrecker we thought he would be, with Bosa getting double teamed. So it all depends, but I don't put anything. The Lions, these guys are going to play, even if, their arms are hanging off. These guys are playing. Dan Campbell's done a really, really good job of building a culture. Like, these guys will play unless they literally cannot play.
Yeah, I think there's Ragnow and Glasgow are both really banged up. Yeah. I think Ragnow's got 4 different injuries on the injury report: ankle, toe, knee, and back. Not quite on shoulders, knees, and toes, but yeah. So really, just kind of cutting it out, and but it's going to be a great game. Of course, we've discussed it a little bit. We've discussed the fact that the Niners are favourites. We've discussed the over/under a little bit. Using your Niners insider knowledge as a fan, where can we potentially make some money in this game on some of the player props? Who should we be looking at to have a big game, or outside a CMC touchdown scorer, because you're not making much money doing that? But where can we potentially earn a few quid on the Niners this weekend?
I'd definitely be putting a couple of quid on Juwan Jennings getting a few touchdowns, just because he's there or thereabouts. I'd also would look for Mitchell to break a few, running back Elijah Mitchell to get a few touchdowns if CMC doesn't let him in. But then on the defensive side, I'll be putting some money on Lenore to get a pick, to get a few interceptions as well. And also I would be putting some money on we're going to come up with 3+ interceptions, just because it's going to be a heavy throw game. We know how Goff throws, and I can see us picking him off 3+.
Nice. That's a lot of pressure, especially if the Niners do manage to get out to a lead, force the Lions again to change the game plan. I think I've been pretty critical of the Lions, which sounds wild, not overall, but the Lions of getting away from the run too much at times this season, particularly games, and they've not been down big very often in games. Apart from, I think they got hammered by the Ravens, didn't they? But apart from that, even the games that they lost against the Packers, or against when they were behind against the Bears, they just disappear from the run, and it seems the antithesis of what Dan Campbell's all about, and they just go chasing it through the air, which just seems to put them under more pressure. So I think that's potentially a way if the Niners can get out to an early lead, you'd be able to put Goff under pressure, and that's maybe where the mistakes happen. So some of the turnovers are a shout there. So Lenore that you mentioned to get an interception, 5.5 to 1, so 11 to 2, so some real good value there. And
he comes up big for us as well when it's needed. He comes up big.
Yeah, and I guess you could just get the Goff over 1.5 or over 2.5 interceptions. You'll get some good value on as well. A couple of touchdown scorers you mentioned there as well. Juwan Jennings, just over 2 to 1. Yeah, real good shout. And
the other one as well, I would go CMC to have 100 yards rushing. I mean, all of these are not going to come off. Don't say that. I'm not. Do you know what I mean? Don't put your mortgage on them.
You don't have to commit to them. It's all right.
A CMC, 100 yards rushing and 100 yards receiving.
Oh, wow. Nice.
I did see that somewhere. I think it was Bet363 or someone like that would put it on.
Yeah, that'll be a special somewhere. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah.
I think it was.
I suppose again that plays if Debo doesn't play.
Especially, he's not practiced all week as well, so I would be putting that on early.
Yeah, that's a great. You saw that in the second half last week. I think they just kind of everything went through McCaffrey, didn't it? In the second half last week, and it worked. The drive that he finished with the long touchdown run, and it certainly just gave him a bit more of the base. I just love this match one. Give me a score prediction, Alec, then.
So I was I don't like to do this. So I'm going to go 45 32.
An NFC Championship classic.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be one of those games. 45-32.
Wow. All of the points. So hammer the over then. If you like what Alec's saying, that this is going to be points everywhere, hammer the over.
Hey, I'm only coming on here once, so I might as well go out big.
You're more than welcome to come back, Alec. Hey,
but yeah,
if you win and get to the Super Bowl, you're coming back next week.
Not with predictions like that. 45-32, and I think it'll go, as I said, the rhythm will be 49ers will pull out. The Lions, I could see the Lions going in at halftime, winning at kind of around that 2017 mark, and then I think we just take over and they score a few in garbage time.
And how big, from your perspective again, how big was it last week to see the Niners come from behind in the fourth quarter? Because there's been the knock on Shanahan. What was it? Not 0-30 when he's been 5 or more points down in the fourth quarter. How big is it? Is it big at all, or actually is there something in it that actually that ability to come back in the fourth quarter
for the heart rate, it was rubbish. Like, it wasn't needed. And for the fact I was jumping around my living room at 4:00 in the morning, it definitely wasn't needed. But yeah, it was needed. It was needed. I don't think it was needed for Kyle because of the facts behind that. Is you look at the quarterbacks that he had previous: Brian Hoyer, Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard. Like, we're not coming back in the fourth quarter with those guys. So that stat's a little bit folded. But I think it was more on Brock Purdy to prove that he can do it. He can drive the ball down the field and win us a game when he needed to, because we needed a touchdown on that drive. So I just wish Dre Greenlaw had gone down a little bit earlier on the interception. That
was crazy. I sat there watching it going, what are you doing? He must have covered like 70 yards from the moment he caught it, and then actually probably only gained about 3. But he must have ran about. So remember that Kyler Murray two-point conversion play where he ran like 80 yards? It was like that.
I have no idea. Whatsoever. But yeah, I think he's still running around Levi's at the moment.
I mean, just if somebody punches that ball out, oh.
What a play.
Not to tempt fate, Alec, because this is going to be a real tough game.
It is. It is. I'm not one to underestimate this as well. I think this is a really, really tough game, and I think you'll bang on and turn. Like, it's a heavy method. The styles don't match at all. Like, and we've not played them this year or last year, I think, as well. So very interesting.
Yeah, first look, and let's say your prediction comes true. The Niners do win. Who would you want to see in the Super Bowl? The Ravens, who you've already played and who put a pretty good beating on you, but you've had the chance to have a look at them, or Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, who've not come from nowhere, but they've been pretty poor, and then all of a sudden have hit their stride in the playoffs. So you've got the chance to avenge Super Bowl from 2012. You've got a chance to avenge the Super Bowl from 2019. Which one would you want?
So personally and selfishly, I need the Ravens, because if the Chiefs make the Super Bowl, I'm done, because I need to come off podcasting and lives, because I said they wouldn't even make the playoffs.
Yeah, sorry, I remember that. Yeah.
So selfishly, I need the Ravens there, because the Chiefs have done me over. I'd like another shot at the Ravens, and I think that would make a really, really good Super Bowl as well. I think the Chiefs would be easier to beat. I think the better Super Bowl is Niners, Ravens.
Yeah.
And
I'm intrigued by any of the matchups. I'm real intrigued by. I think we'll get a good game regardless. But I don't know. I've got something. Later in the episode, we're going to talk Chiefs, Ravens, and
I don't trust Patrick Mahomes at all.
You don't trust Patrick Mahomes?
No, I don't trust him to do play bad. So I put all my money on him. I put all my money on him last week to beat the Bills, upset a few Bills fans that we had on the show. You can never count him out. That's one thing with him. So I sneakily think the Chiefs might win that. Yeah,
I'm. Not to spoil, but I've certainly leaned that way. I called last week. I think I think if the Chiefs win on Sunday, I think they're going to win it all. It is just, they have turned into that kind of their final form of the Patriots from, 5-6 years ago, where they just kind of, I'm just going to start ambling their way through the regular season and just turn it on in the playoffs. And that's what they're going to do now. Treat the regular season as a warm up and just turn it on when it counts. Alex, it's been great chatting to you. Thanks ever so much for coming on. Good teams and great teams cover. Best of luck on Sunday. Hoping for a great game. I've not got a dog in the fight, so I'm just hoping for it. I'm hoping for a great game. But if you do win, and the favourites to win, but if you do win, it'd be great to have you on in the build up to the Super Bowl and kind of see how you're feeling heading into the big game in Vegas.
Anytime, but don't lie, Paul. You're definitely a Lions fan this weekend.
Everybody's a Lions fan this weekend. Everybody apart from people in the Bay Area. Lions fans this weekend. Are you guys going to be running the show before the games on Sunday?
Yeah, we're running a show on Sunday, 5 p.m. kickoff. Got a few fans coming on, but also to remember as well, when this goes out, if anyone's in the Leeds area, the 49ers have got a watch party for the NFC Championship game. So it's somewhere you can actually watch the game at 11:30, which I don't think there's many places about. So just head to the UK Faithful Twitter or the 49ers UK Faithful Facebook page to check it out. Yeah,
it's at the box. So I'm actually helping the Utter Punts guys in Manchester host an event. If I wasn't doing that, I'd have been joining the Niners guys down in Leeds. But sadly, I'm already booked for the evening. But
busy man,
yeah. So yeah, I'll be watching that and helping host. So that'll be cool in Manchester. But we'll hear about that later because we've got a whole promo about it in the show. But Alec, so it's 5 o'clock Sunday.
5 o'clock Sunday.
Yeah.
NFL around the UK on Let's Talk Sport, and we'll have a Lions fan on there. Obviously, we've got enough 49ers fans in the crew, and then we'll have a Chiefs and a Bills fan on as well.
Awesome. Good stuff. Go check it out. Go follow Let's Talk Sports Network. Dan did unbelievable work getting that set up over the last few years. And you know what? I'm sure Alex, same for you guys. Wouldn't be doing what we're doing now without Dan. So forever grateful. Go give Alec a follow. Go give NFL Around the UK a follow on Twitter, Instagram, and make sure you're following the Let's Talk Sport YouTube channel as well. Alec, good luck. And hopefully we'll see you again soon.
No worries. Appreciate it. Cheers, Paul.
Thanks again to Alec Simpson for being a fantastic guest. Go give NFL Around the UK a follow. Check them out on Let's Talk Sport YouTube channel. They'll be back on Sunday at 5 o'clock for their preview of the championship games. Alec, Gary, and Matty plus guests. So check that out. 5 o'clock Sunday. Let's Talk Sport YouTube channel. NFL Conference Championships picks and preview episode rolls on. I'm joined by the usual suspects, Byron and Joe. How are you feeling? We've just got 3 games to go until the end of the season.
I'm chilling out and just enjoying, the games that are to come. I have no nerves, which is nice. Not sure the same could be said for Joe, but just look forward. I can't believe there's only 3 games left.
It is mad that we're at this point. Joe, how are you doing? You're in the dance still. Barely.
Yeah, I'm trying not to think about it too much yet. I think the nerves will kick in at the end of the week. I think when it hit Monday, I was like, I just wanted to be Sunday already. But the nerves, but I'm pretty used to being the conference title game, being a 49ers fan the last few years. So I'm looking forward to it, to be honest, because I think this year they're the favourites, and whenever they played at home, they've come out victorious most times the last few years. So it's excited for it.
What a wanker. Oh, fine. That's why I'm used to being in the conference.
Well, I'm just telling the truth. They've been, 4 the last 5 or something like that. So.
Yeah. All right. I just changed my tune on who I want to win now.
We're used to being in the wild card round. It's similar. Used to losing to the 49ers in the playoffs. He's used to them being in the conference champion. It's neither of them ever win fucking Super Bowl. So what's the difference?
There we go. Both still waiting. Speaking of Sunday, a reminder, if you're in the Northwest Manchester area, get yourself down to the Bierkeller, Manchester at the Printworks on Sunday. The Utter Punts Conference Championship watch party that I'll be supporting, and we, by proxy, will be helping supporting and hosting. Really looking forward to a great night with Dan and Liam from the Utter Punts pod. The Bierkeller in Manchester is a great venue, usually jam-packed for these NFL games. So, really looking forward to it. Be able to hear my horrible takes in person. Go get your tickets now on Eventbrite. They're a $5, gets you in. Pretty sure it gets you a drink as well. It's a bargain, in it. It's open from 6:30 till the end of the second game, and there'll be plenty of pre-game, halftime, post-game analysis from me, Dan, and Liam. Plenty of games and giveaways as well. So it should just be a fun time. So get yourself down. Come see us. Please don't leave us so there's just like 4 of us sat in a room. That'd be really embarrassing.
Yeah, you'll end up looking like Utter Punts if that's the case.
Hey, there we go. No, it won't. It'll be full. It'll be a great time. We're going to do our draft because we're down to just 2 games and we've got our little competitions going on. We're going to do the draft first, just before we reveal maybe which way we're leaning for the games to tip the draft, because this is still a competition. Just a reminder that some of us are perfect in the draft competition so far. Playoff draft pick competition, 4-0. And this is when it really counts. January football, this is when it matters. The regular season is just a warm-up.
But with your record, Pod, I think you would have even gone to the playoffs for the regular season. So, but no, all fair play, 4-0.
4-0. I'm just generally hot on the gambling front in the playoffs. It's been a very profitable few weeks. Hopefully, I've not just put a curse on myself. I'm, I suppose, 1.5 games clear of you, Joe. So you're 2-1-1, and Byron's 2-2. So it could all be done before we get into the Super Bowl. If I guess if I go 2-0 and you got one of you guys doesn't, or both of you guys don't, then it's done. We are going to draft, so Byron's going to get to go first as he's bottom of the pile. So it's a reminder you have to take one side of a game, so one underdog or favourite, and also an over or under. Snake draft, so it'll go Byron, Joe, me, Joe, Byron. Byron, you're up.
Cool. So I am going to take the under on the Lions-Niners.
51, right?
Yeah, it's a big number.
Big number.
Essentially, I'm pretty confident I can get my game pick when it comes back around. So I'll just take my favorite over/under of the weekend here. 51's a big number. Kind of worry that I obviously really hope it's a great game. Really hoping the Lions win. No offense, Joe, but I'm so emotionally invested at this point in the Lions winning the Super Bowl. I'll just get into the Super Bowl. Don't much care who wins the AFC game. I must say, I like both teams, love both quarterbacks, but I'm just so pumped for like Dan Campbell victory speeches and Jared Goff being sassy with the media, and so I think the Niners might just try and keep it a tight game. I think that's kind of what Shanahan does to his detriment a little bit too much, but I just think that 51 is just slightly too big of a number.
Yeah. I think I would have said this multiple times so far for the season. Every time that number gets to 50 or above, I very much lean on the under. I haven't got the stats to hand, but typically when the line's 50 or above, the under definitely the under does tend to hit more than the over in my experience. It's just a lot of points. Cool. Okay, Joe.
Cool. I'm gonna go pick a game just because. Yeah, it's probably what I feel more confidence with. I think and we'll chat about this a bit. I think the Ravens are going to win. So plus 3.5, to go win by more than a field goal, which I think they will.
You're not getting the Ravens plus 3.5, by the way.
Sorry, minus 3.5. So I was looking at the Chiefs whoever around. Yeah, so Ravens minus 3.5 is my pick.
I mean, I might as well get out of the way. I'm going to go up against you, Joe. I'm going to take the Chiefs. The Chiefs plus money, Chiefs plus points, just makes absolute sense. Do you want me to go reel off the stats? I might as well do it now. I guess we're going to talk about the game anyway, but I might as well I'll reel off the stats now. Chiefs are 11-5, straight up as an underdog since Patrick Mahomes' first game back at the end of 2017. They're 12-3-1 against the spread in those. On the road, they're even better. They're 9-2 straight up and 10-0-1. They've never not covered the spread. Double negative. Is that right? Never not. They always cover the spread as an underdog on the road. I just don't see this being any different. I love them to win the game outright. Love them to win the game outright. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. But 3.5, it's now 4 as well. It's moved to 4, even though there's a lot of money on the Chiefs. Plus 3.5. Patrick Mahomes plus 3.5. Give it me every day. Every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
But have we not learned this year that going against the Ravens at home, against a team we're confident with plus points on the spread, it's been not very good for us. So.
Never not covered the spread as a road underdog. Never.
There's always first time for everything, you know.
Very true.
I think we're about to 8 tuplet negatives at this point, by the way. Yeah. Never mind doubles. The more you say it, the more it's jarring my head.
Never not. Sorry. Yeah. So until that starts happening and they start, failing to cover as road underdogs, it doesn't happen very often that the Chiefs are underdogs. Then I'll stop betting it. But Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid have made me a lot of money.
And themselves.
Sorry?
And themselves.
And themselves, yeah. So I'm not going to jump off them now.
You're never not going to bet.
Never not.
I feel like I should be making an Edgar Allan Poe joke as well here. Quote the Raven, never not.
Never not. Right. Yeah, just Mahomes. The Chiefs, plus 3.5. I'm also going to double up on this game. And I don't like the totals this week. And it's weird. You can't how you can dislike both sides of the total. Yeah. But I really just don't like them.
That's very much what pointed me to the other game because that line's basically perfect, I think.
Under 44.5, Chiefs Ravens. Under 44.5, Chiefs Ravens. Baltimore Ravens, as the Baltimore Ravens. A Baltimore Ravens home playoff game has never hit the over. I've just done it again. So last week it closed at 44, which is where you take that number from. So I luckily got over 43.5 last week, but it closed at 44. So
they haven't had many home games though, have they? I think that's it's a weird stat.
Yeah, this is only going to be the 9th home playoff game they've had.
8-0 is significant though. That's a good number. Well, not like 2.
7-0-1. The unders hit.
Okay, yeah.
It was pushed last week. So yeah,
never not though.
Never not. We've got a catchphrase. I just think this was going to be it's going to be a bit of a low-scoring defensive battle, which is why I also love the Chiefs plus 3.5. And I'm going to start with the under. I went Chiefs and the under in wildcard weekend against the Dolphins, and it worked for me. So I'm going back to the well. Have I picked the Chiefs all 3 weeks? Yeah,
I don't think you've never not picked them.
Chiefs. Chiefs against the Dolphins, Chiefs against the Bills. I'm just going to ride the Kansas City Chiefs.
There you go. It's working for you.
It is.
So, cool. I'll go next. I'm going to go against Byron and go over 51 for the 49ers Lions game. Just because even though the weather last week against the Packers and it was still 45, this week's supposed to be nice and sunny, which is perfect for both quarterbacks playing outdoors. So I think both defenses can be susceptible to being scored on. So I can see them both getting high 20s and being over that 51.
Nice. Byron, last but not least. How many choices have you?
Joe took the Ravens, right? Plus,
yep.
Minus.
Fine.
I'll take the Niners -7.
You like it, or is it just because you've not got much choice?
I really want the Lions to win, but I think the Niners are just too much. Debo's practicing again. If Debo was out, I think this is going to be a real good, tight matchup, but I just think they're going to have too much for that Lions defense, unfortunately. Again, really hope I'm wrong, but I don't think the Lions have quite got the horses to keep up. If they're going to win and potentially even keep it within 7, because I don't know, I kind of thought it might be a few more points. I thought it might be like 9.5, up to 10, really. the Niners are really, really good.
Really?
I know they were close against the Packers,
Yeah.
but I think throughout the season, other than their little blip when they had a lot of when they had Debo and Trent Williams out, and Purdy kind of had his turnover look kind of catch up to him that 3-game period where they lost all 3, if I remember rightly. I just think they've been so impressive, and they are so good. They are such a good team. Like, you know, at this stage of season, I think it can be kind of hard to forget, but I think, I don't know, like, there's been a little bit of my behalf as well of, like, you know, doing the playoff thing. It's like, oh, slide the Cowboys in here and there, you know, because that's who I am, you know. But, like, I think ultimately the best 2 teams in the NFL are the 49ers and the Ravens. And I think over the season it's kind of played itself out to be that way. Like I say, I'm going to be gutted if the Lions don't win because I've emotionally invested myself too much in it this last 10 days, week. But I just think the 49ers are just so strong across the board, that, especially offensively, that the Lions are just going to struggle to slow them down.
Yeah. Cool. Right, so just to recap, our conference championship playoff draft comp picks. It's been a long day. Apologies, people. Byron, you're on Lions, 49ers under 51, and the Niners -7. Joe, you're on the Ravens -3.5. Liners 9. Liners? If I just use the word to describe what people from Leeds are called. Liners? Anyway, Lions, 49ers.
That's polite people from Leeds.
Yeah, that's what it's called. Liners, apparently, yeah.
Oh, very polite.
Yeah.
I've heard worse.
A lot worse, yeah. 49ers, Lions over 51. I'm Chiefs +3.5. Chiefs, Ravens under 44.5. Back to the well with those.
If you want to pick your own fourfold, create your own adventure in there, it's about 1,200 for the parlay, whichever 4 you pick, really, as well. If you pick 2 over-unders, 2 spread bets, then yeah, you're going to get about 1,200 for your choice.
Have we covered all the ways? The various combos now? Yeah? No, not everything's covered, is it? So
we didn't have a Lions +7, and we didn't have a
Chiefs
under 44.5. No.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, we're due to it full, haven't it? One for a while. Several ways to do it. Let's talk about some games. We've just heard from Alec about the 49ers. We'll touch on that game again later on, of course. Chiefs, Ravens, as we've just talked about. Chiefs +3.5. Ravens, Chiefs +3.5. And the over-under is 44.5. We talked a little bit about kind of where we're leaning. I suppose, what are the keys to the game here? Because this is going to be a fantastic battle. That was a question there. Keys to the game.
Which game? Sorry, I missed the
Chiefs, Ravens.
Chiefs, Ravens. Okay, yeah. Can the Ravens defense pressure Patrick Mahomes up the middle enough with 4? What do Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen do? Does one of them drop on Travis Kelce? Do they disguise and sit in coverage and hope they get a pick or 2? Marlon Humphrey is practicing already this week, which is a huge positive, I think, because the Chiefs' offense looked back to normal last week. I think a lot of that, though, was on Buffalo being down to about us 3 at linebacker. And Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen might be the best linebacker pairing in the league, especially, well, it's definitely the best pairing in the AFC. So that is an entirely different ball game. I don't think Travis Kelce is going to get walking 27-yard touchdowns again this week. I can't see that happening. On the other side, Spags, his defense, I think, had a little lull towards the end of the regular season, but it's really picked up again. But again, kind of helped by playing that terrible Dolphins offense in the wildcard round. And then, I mean, they didn't really slow Josh Allen down, to be fair. Diggs had a couple of bad drops, and then it was just Patrick Mahomes beat the Bills' defense more than the defense stopped Josh Allen. What can they do to slow down Lamar Jackson? What can they do to slow down that offense? How fit is Mark Andrews? I think it's kind of the big pieces to me. Yeah. I didn't actually pick the game in our draft there, but I'm going with the Ravens, and I think the Ravens will cover.
Yeah. Were you looking at my notes? Because the first thing I had is Ravens defense needs to pressure Mahomes when rushing 4.
No, I was not. I mean, I didn't even know which game we were covering first. So yeah. I would hopefully do a bit of a better job of sneaking at your notes if I was.
Yeah, no, yeah, brilliant. I think it's massive. So we saw last week that even though they didn't get to CJ Stroud when the Ravens played the Texans, just pressure in his face, making him move, and you make that ball come out quick,
Yeah.
and and you've got that secondary. You've got two fantastic safeties in Hamilton and Stone. They can start creeping up as well, and it just becomes very, very difficult to move the ball down the field on the Ravens. I think you need to. And onto the second point is, I think the Chiefs really need to offer a deep threat. Problem is they haven't got one. And I don't know how you do, but teams that have had success against the Ravens, so look at the Rams, who took them to overtime, scored 30 on them. Lesser of the Browns when they beat them, but even the Colts and even the Jaguars, who ended up getting beat by 2 scores against the Ravens, but actually that was just because their inability to keep playing the red zone and daft mistakes. They did move the ball on them a lot. They moved the ball down the field and took multiple deep shots, passes of over 30 yards. Not necessarily great completion percentage on them, but what that did is help. You have to make them worry. You have to make this Ravens defense worry behind them.
Yeah.
And then you stretch it out a bit, and then those linebackers have got more to cover. You don't have those safeties creeping up to the line of scrimmage. Kyle Hamilton blowing up plays everywhere. Then all of a sudden, you can get the run game going. You can get that intermediate passing game going, and you're not just kind of shut down. I think that's key. My one worry for the Chiefs is, who's that going to be?
Yeah.
Who's worrying, because Rashee Rice isn't that a true deep threat.
No.
He's done a lot of his damage on crossing routes, mid-range.
He's got a good yak, but
yards after catch, which the Ravens don't let you have.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. It's all well and good having it. 16 weeks out of 17, but the Ravens ain't going to let you have it.
Somebody just needs to threaten. And it doesn't necessarily mean they make big plays, but they just have to threaten with that deep, because then it opens it up.
It is one of my... Sorry, you go ahead, Joe.
Go, Joe.
I was going to say, with Marlon Humphrey, he's been limited in practice, so he looks like he's back as well. So it's, you've versing like a full fit Ravens, secondary as well, which, we thought last week, the Texans might be able to try exploit that he's not playing, but they didn't do that whatsoever. So it's even scarier fact that your best cornerback's playing as well.
Yeah, the teams that did kind of at least make the Ravens think about the deep balls were then able to run the ball between the tackles. And I think that's key, because if you can have the threat, and imagine Mahomes just has to take a couple of shots, and there's an element of risk, obviously risk in that, but then you get Pacheco going, because all of a sudden those linebackers can't creep up to the line of scrimmage. They have to be back in, and he just opens things up a bit. Kelsey can start doing some damage. It's really, really key that the Chiefs throw to open up the run. And whether it's, I don't know, it's just in what, I don't know if it's what's, I don't know who it's going to be. It's not. I was going
to say, that's one of my little prop bets I'm interested in. Player with longest reception, Justin Watson plus 650. And this is a DraftKings market. I'm not sure if it's probably similar for 365 as well. Race to 40 yards market. Justin Watson is plus 30 to 1, plus 3,000. And he's generally, especially in the big games, that's who Mahomes goes to deep. MBS sometimes. Nicole Hardman, I think, is in the doghouse. Kadarius Toney is a yak guy. Justin Watson's generally the guy that goes too deep. And again, like a 30 to 1 shot on race to however many yards, you're kind of hoping the Chiefs get the ball first and go deep early. Yeah. So I don't think he's going to get it on 6 receptions. It's going to be a 1 or 2 shot thing. But I think it's Watson, if anybody, that's going to be that test them downfield.
Yeah. I mean, the Chiefs have been middle of the pack for pass yards of 20 yards or more. Pass plays of 20 yards or more. I think the 14th, so it's kind of really middle in the pack, only 52 on the season. But yeah, I don't know what Andy Reid's going to have a real think about how you open that up. Some good news for the Chiefs side of things. What I was real worried about the Chiefs' defensive injuries. Gay and Mike Edwards went out of the game last week. Edwards is back in training, so he looks like he's going to come out of the concussion protocol. And Gay's had a limited practice with his neck injury. Would seem that they'll both be okay. Massive for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't think they can really carry anybody really to contend here.
Joe, where are you feeling it's going to be 1 all lost here between the Ravens and Chiefs?
Yeah, so what you guys said, obviously, the Ravens defense, just how violent they were against the Texans, and if they can do that against the Chiefs. Well, you look at the linebackers, and you watch I think it was Roquan Smith may have been mic'd up, and I watched that, and he was absolutely just blowing up players, and yeah, this Chiefs team's a different animal. I think obviously they've been there, but when you get hit by that kind of player and it starts going wrong, that's where I think the Ravens can exploit, like they did against 49ers, is try and make Mahomes to make a mistake and see if they can snowball. Obviously, that's a whole different kettle of fish playing against Mahomes. So I think it's how Mahomes plays. I think Lamar's gonna get plenty of rushes just because Josh Allen and the Bills managed to run it felt like they run all over the Chiefs. It wasn't crazy, but it felt like they had success of doing these slow plays down the field, and I feel that's Baltimore's strength as well. They're not they've got players who can make them plays down the field, but a lot of their star players are, the running backs. Lamar, now Andrews is back with likely Zay Flower in the slot. It's like all these kind of where you can just throw it 10 to 15 yards and just get down the field. And obviously the Bills did that against the Chiefs, but what the Bills didn't have, they couldn't stop Patrick Mahomes to just score within 2 or 3 minutes, and then they were back up again or back square. But I think the Ravens are a different team, a different defense. That if Baltimore can get rolling with these long drives and start putting points to the board, it's then can Mahomes come back as just as quick against the number one defense in the league compared to the Bills team, who were just injury hit, especially like the linebackers and the secondary. So I think that's huge. That's why I'm a bit confident with Baltimore, because I think they're going to score points. I think Lamar's going to get them points. It's can the Chiefs, can they perform as they did last week against a greater defense? I think that's the big question.
Yeah. I love one thing. This interests me because from our draft there, I'm on the under. Loads of money on the over. I've gone against this. So 44% of the bets and 92% of the money's on the over. It did not look like that about 24 hours ago. I think the kicker's going to be key here, and you've got two great ones. You've got arguably the greatest of all time in Justin Tucker, one of the greatest of all time.
Is there an argument for it to be someone else?
Vinatieri? No. Vinatieri's pretty good.
Very clutch, but Justin Tucker's the best kicker of all time.
Okay, so the best kicker of all time against a very, very the Chiefs also have a very, very good one in Harrison Butker. Tucker's only 1 for 5 from 50 plus yards so far this season, and I think he got that in the was that last week he got it? Or it might have been week 17. It was very late in the season, hadn't got one from 50 yards, whereas Butker's not missed. And I'm not saying that just a great clutch, of course he is, but I think it could be interesting that special teams battle and battle of the kickers. We saw how Green Bay missed kicks, the Buffalo Bills missed a kick. How important they are, and in a tight game, it matters. And you've got a guy who's not had his best year, might be the greatest of all time, but he's certainly not had his best season. And you've got Harrison Butker, who's been flying.
So we're honourable mention loser of the week last week. Maybe we'll have one as a full.
We don't talk about kickers very often.
It's like a lawyer, you only mention them when they're not doing the job.
Yeah, very true. But two great ones there. Anything else we should be looking out for in this game?
I think the Ravens are going to kind of run as much as Joe hinted it with Lamar there, but I kind of like betting wise the Justice Hill numbers, the Gus Edwards numbers. Not Dalvin Cook, because Dalvin Cook I think is absolutely washed. But yeah, Justice Hill's over 32.5. Gus Edwards over 43.5. I'll take Gus Edwards touchdowns as well. I think let me just get him up rather than guessing. Yeah, plus 852 or more touchdowns for Gus Edwards.
Plus 850.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that is for 2, so but yeah, just there's a lot of ways to score for Baltimore, but I think that's John Harbaugh. He's gonna big game. What does he trust more than anything? Lamar Jackson primarily, but running the ball, and go to town on the Chiefs, I think.
Cool. Joe, what are you liking from a bets perspective on this one?
I might look at Lamar again with the 2+ touchdowns. I just think whenever they're in the red zone, he's the main threat, and obviously Josh Allen did it against them last week, so possibly Lamar. So obviously tricky with Okay, it's tricky with Andrews being back as well, because I did like likely because he felt like he was their red zone target. But other than that, I think it's going to be Yeah, and like Byron said, maybe one of the running backs. I'll have a look what the yardage is for some of them. I just think it's going to be tricky with how the Chiefs like secondary is as well. I think they're going to shut down, especially like the Ravens' deep threat. And I wonder if Snead's going to be on Zay Flowers, so that takes out your main player, and then can the other players step up? Where it's like Beckham feels like he's maybe the third or fourth wide receiver right now behind Aguilar and Bateman. There's a few others that are being thrown to him. Beckham hasn't really got much, so could this be a huge Beckham game? That could be a.
He has been quiet, hasn't he? And this is ultimately what they signed him for. This is what their $15 million, or they're wanting it to buy, is show up big in the playoffs. And I don't know. There's just not enough volume and not enough pass attempts, I think, in that offense to get him going. I think that's a struggle with OBJ.
One of the. So I was just looking at the longest reception market earlier, looking into the Chiefs players, but Joe just mentioned his name then. It kind of surprised me. He hasn't been involved as much as anyone I think expecting in his career. He's had a lot of injuries, but Rashad Bateman is 2,800 to have the longest reception in the game. And I just think for a cheeky, $5 or something, that seems like just a, and you've got Zay Flowers is plus 300. OBJ is plus 400. And then Rashad Bateman's plus 2,800. Seems like a hell of a jump and Aguilar's even 2,200, but I think Aguilar's more your third down red zone weapon. Whereas Bateman, I think, just runs a fairly decent, number of routes. He doesn't get many targets, obviously, but he might only need one to break off, 30 yards, 40 yards, and have the longest reception of the game. So yeah, I'll probably have a little bet on that. I don't think it's a huge winner, but I'm just kind of surprised that it's 2,800 when that's the same price as like Isaiah Pacheco and McCall Hardman.
Yeah. One that I love to keep an eye on in the playoffs, Patrick Mahomes' rushing yards. This line never changes in the playoffs. So Patrick Mahomes has got a career average of 28 yards rushing per game in the playoffs. The line's 27.5. He didn't get there last week, but he ran it 6 times. I was surprised last week. Usually he was running at that often. So if we're expecting him to be under pressure, he will usually break one of these runs out. He will usually slip out and get like a 20-yard run. So, yeah, I know I like that just because it tends to hit with 27.5. A couple of others I like a double. So I'd say double. Lamar, anytime touchdown. Kelsey, anytime touchdown, plus 320. 3-1 when you've got, your main pass threat. Kelsey and Lamar, I like that one. And give me over 3.5 field goals. I've mentioned kind of how big the kickers could be in this one. Over 3.5 field goals. I think the defenses are good. I think the offense is good and the defense they go to. We might see some kind of stalled drives. Especially kind of when it gets into that fourth quarter, which could be back and forth trading field goals. So, yeah, over 3.5 field goals, plus 120. Fantasy Game Day is running. Any Fantasy Game Day shouts for this one? It's very tough this week, by the way, just because of the way the prices are versus your budget and how to get people in. It is tough.
Yeah, I think, again, Joe touched on Beckham being the fourth option. I think that Aguilar's probably a real good bargain at the third option then, or the second option even, actually. And Justice Hill, I imagine, is probably a good price relative to his production the last few weeks.
Aguilar's 3,100. Justice Hill, just a great name. 3,900.
Yeah, so I think that, kind of having at least one of them kind of like enablers would allow you to, load up on.
You need a few enablers this week.
Yeah, I can well imagine, yeah. How are the quarterbacks priced?
Yeah, so you put your quarterbacks, so Lamar's 8,100 and then Patrick Mahomes 6,900. You got Purdy and then Goff.
Because I was going to say, you probably best bet is to get Lamar in just because he's probably the one who's got the rushing touchdown capability. I know the others could do it, but you expect Lamar to get at least one in these kind of games. So I can see why he's that priced, and might be foolish not to get him in, but see how it works out with how much everything else is going to cost. So.
It's so hard. Yeah. So tricky. It is. We get trickier, isn't it? Cool. Shall we move on? AFC Championship previewed. NFC Championship. We've already talked to Alec Simpson from NFL Around the UK. But Joe, how are you feeling about your San Francisco 49ers as 7-point favourites at home to the team that everybody wants to win, the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, I'm feeling confident. I think because being at home is a massive help. Playing on this Saturday, having an extra day's rest, yeah, fair enough. I think this Detroit are obviously a good team, but I don't know if they're a great team, and I don't know if it's just the NFC this year has been there's been a lot of good teams, not great team, and is the 49ers the one great team? If they are, which I think they are, then I think they should win this. Obviously, being 7-point favourites suggests that. So I'm confident in that way. A lot more confident than I was, for example, last year when we were playing the Eagles, where it felt like, oh wow, this team could be better than us or on the power. I still think the 49ers are the better team. They've got the better star players. I don't think there's much difference between how the teams play. I think they're both physical and they both have their strengths and weaknesses. I just think the 49ers, with the weather being great, I think they can exploit the Detroit secondary. I think they can get some big plays and score more points than they did last week. And I think the ultimate thing is just try and pressure Goff as much as possible. It's not always easy. Obviously, they've probably got the best defensive line left in the playoffs. Certainly be up there. So it's going to be tricky. But when you look at some stats where you look at EPA per play, so in a clean pocket, Brock Purdy's first, Goff's 7th. But when they're under pressure, Purdy's 3rd and Goff's 28th. So I think it's all about pressuring Goff, and it's about trying to pressure him up the middle. And we've obviously they had an injury with their right guard, which I think you can plug in guards if you've got a strong offensive line. It shouldn't make too much of a difference. I think there's been plenty of games where our offensive lineman's out, they're going to be able to take advantage and go crazy, but often it doesn't always happen. But so I think it's a huge game for Armstead, for Kinlaw, for Hargreaves, just to pressure Goff up the middle. I think that's how you beat them. Because I think if you give him time, they've got the dangerous weapons. I think obviously that run game is massive, which we've talked about with the other game, that if you can try and get the defense on their toes, then they can pick them apart, because they'll be trying to stop that run with the two-headed monster with Montgomery and Gibbs. So then they can do the play action, and that's when they're the most dangerous, where they're hitting Laporta, St. Brown, Reynolds, and all that. And how the 49ers been on run defense, I thought it was going to be a little bit better last week with Armstead coming back. It wasn't. So hopefully they've made them adjustments, they've made the improvements, because they certainly need to do that. But I think it's going to be a close game. It's 49ers very rarely win easily, especially in the playoffs. It's always a stress. It's always going to come down to the last drive, and it's, is Purdy better than Garoppolo? And I think he is. So I've got confidence I can actually score a winning drive at the end if needed.
Yeah, I thought 7 was too much. Byron, you mentioned maybe earlier when we were talking that you thought it might have been more. I think the 7's too much, but I think the Niners win, but the Lions cover. I think this will be kept close. Not low scoring, but I'd certainly be leaning to the under. I've not made a bet for this one yet, but I'm not quite as sure as I am of the Chiefs. I think it's a couple of key bits is I think there's a little bit where the Lions might just need to hang on in there. Debo, I think if he's trending to play, he's massive. I think the Lions they've had a tendency that if they've gone down early in games, and not necessarily gone down big, they've just almost abandoned the running game. You can't do that against the Niners. Look what the Packers did to them last week. Aaron Jones ran all over the Niners last week. You have to commit to it. You've got to be, Gibbs and Montgomery need to be rushing the ball 30 times between them. If you're going to win this game, keep the Niners sat down. Don't, take 12 drives you get usually. Try and get them to 10 or 9. Run that ball. Even if you're down, run that ball. And I think that's the key. I'm just not sure Dan Campbell will do it. Or Ben Johnson, I should say.
Yeah, I think more specifically with the Niners, I think, and again, picking on my bets a little early here, but I'm not sure what Gibbs' actual over-under is, but I love his laddered over-under of rushing yards. Over 62.5 is plus 210. Over 78.5 is plus 500, which seems like, the outside run is where you can get the Niners, if anywhere, I think. Especially when that pressure is going to come up Goff's face. The easy thing to do, dump offs obviously aren't going to count in there, but outside runs, screens, dump off passes are, I think, going to be his friend all day. And Gibbs is obviously electric. Like, we don't need to kind of oversell how good Jameer Gibbs is. He's rapid. David Montgomery isn't. David Montgomery is a great pounder. Is a very useful running back in most facets of the game. But Gibbs is your outside guy, and he can get 20 yards in a lick. The one thing I think, obviously I'm backing the Niners to cover here. I do think they're a much better team. My one kind of concern, and I think where the Lions can win it, is get Gibbs going and keep him going. Don't get away from it if things don't go out smoothly. Obviously, get Amon-Ra St. Brown 50 targets, as many as you can get to him. Try and get J-Mo Williams as your, decoy, even just something to try and take that pressure off. But I think the biggest thing is for me, Kyle Shanahan, I think often, and I think it's kind of a thing with that, Sean McVay does the same, that tree is, I don't want to say the coach scared, but I think they coach much more conservatively than their offense kind of like you would think. Like the nuance of how well they call players and they scheme offense up is beautiful. And then it feels like they get tight in actual game situations. Like Shanahan at the end of the second half yesterday, McVay throughout the playoffs and in big games, it just feels like it all tightens up. Dan Campbell does not. Dan Campbell will be going for it on fourth downs, I think, throughout the game, because I'm not going to say it's now or never. I nearly did. But when the Lions are going to be back in an NFC Championship game, there's no guarantee that you come back. You're not the 49ers and the fans get laissez-faire about it like Joe. It's a potential once in a lifetime. And I don't think Dan Campbell is going to want to go out of this game thinking, what if? Whereas Kyle Shanahan has shown that tendency a little to be a little tight, to put on fourth down, even on the wrong side of the field, when it's must go for it territory, in my opinion. And he just, like I say, just tightens up a little. And I think that's where the Lions can do it. If Shanahan tightens up, a couple of plays go the wrong way for them, and the Lions play 100% and take full advantage. I think that's really the way it happens.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was actually going to mention something about that as well. I was going to say something similar, where it's so frustrating sometimes where they'll go the length of the field, 15 plays, absolutely gas the defense, score a touchdown, and then they'll go 3 and out the next 3 times because they'll run, get stopped, pass for 2 yards, and then it's like 3rd and 5. Oh, he hasn't hit it. Let's punt.
Yeah.
And it feels like that happens quite a lot. Like it did like the Packers when, even when they got the interception, they have to settle for a field goal just because it feels like sometimes the big plays are just not there when they need it. Hoping it's slightly different. I know Purdy played last week against the Packers, and obviously I'm going to say it's the weather. Hopefully having Purdy instead of Garoppolo helps. That where, because I think, I can't remember the stats, but I know it's pretty high in the, when it's the 3rd down, he's one of the top performers as well. So that helps, and having the ability to scramble and make plays like the Kittle one, that he makes up for some of the decisions. So yeah, that is a frustrating where, like you said, the Lions feel like they just go for it, and if they get stopped, they'll go for it again. There's no bad. And that's why I'm always like, no matter how many points the 49ers are up, I'll never be confident, because there's been plenty of games where they've been up by 12 and you think, oh, it's comfortable. We've got this. And then suddenly, oh, they get a touchdown, 3 and out. Oh, they get another touchdown. Shit, we're down 2 points. So it's it's always a nerve-wracking the playoffs cost. Like you said, it does feel like he just holds back a little bit, or just doesn't go for it. Especially, and I hope he does this time, because like I said, I think that secondary can get got at. I think when you look at their stats throughout the year, and you look at that Rams game, and Mike Evans as well, I think Mike Evans got easily over 100 yards. So if Evans could do it with Baker, then surely Ayuk and Debo can do it with Purdy. And some of the Rams staff had managed to get Puka plenty of yards. So I think that's the big thing. And what the Niners have is obviously McCaffrey to finish off these drives, which I think wasn't happened with the other teams, that sometimes they had the big players but just couldn't finish it off and get the 7 points. So hopefully that's where the difference is for the 49ers.
Cool. Any other bets to look out for in this one?
This one isn't a bet. I just wanted to throw it in as a last stat before we moved on. So Christian McCaffrey's rushing over-under here is 85.5 yards. The Lions haven't allowed a running back to get 70 rushing yards this year. And I think the highest was, I believe it was, his name was escaping, Ty Chandler, I think in week 18, who got 60-something. I'm not going to bet the McCaffrey line there, obviously. I just find that kind of underratedly how great that running attack has been. I think part of that is because you can get the DBs, and the Lions are in game scripts that you're going to throw on them more than you're going to run on them because you need to catch up with them quite often. But I just found that stunning. So it might be a McCaffrey receptions game rather than a McCaffrey rushing game. But I just found that very surprising.
Yeah. Because imagine what they did against Ravens. I know it didn't work, and the Ravens defense is a whole different beast to the Lions. But when that game, it was like, they're going to like start running and start like trying to do that. But they just threw from straight off.
Yeah.
Just like the first couple of, and it worked in the sense they managed to get to the red zone. Obviously, Purdy threw an interception, and everything went downhill after that. But I do that could be a tactic where they try and make out that, the first drive to where Purdy just starts hitting 20 yards, all that kind of thing. So that's why I'm certainly looking at Kittle over 62.5. I think I said it last week. He's just he's the playoff machine. No matter which quarterback, if it's Purdy, if it's, if you Garoppolo, anyone, Kittle's going to be that guy who gets 70, 80 yards, and he's going to be the, key player just to keep drives going. So I'm definitely going to go Kittle over 62.5 and probably a touchdown as well, just because, again, he's a main guy. And depending on, I've probably got Ayuk's 82.5, which feels pretty high, but, we've seen the Lions have let plenty. I know I saw a crazy stat as well with how many 100-yard receivers they've allowed and passer ratings. I think both of their cornerbacks are like above 100. I think one is like 120 and one's like 115. So I might get Ayuk as well, because I think last week Debo was a main plan, and even if he's playing this week, I don't think they're going to make him the main plan just because that injury can resurface and he might not be fully fit where they want him to do end arounds and really playing running backs. I think Ayuk could be a good shout as well for over 82.5.
I think it'd be interesting to see. I think you might see Debo a lot, almost users. We see him in motion a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think you might even see him even more this week. His main job this week might just be helping Brock Purdy work out how the Detroit Lions defense is lining up, and that could be his main. He's there. You have to account for him. Yeah. You have to cover him.
Yep. And you have to tell us whether you're doing zone or man when you tell us what you're doing with him.
Exactly. So I think that could be, and that's not to put down Debo or say that's what he's useful for. That's just kind of the way he is. He's banged up bad. But, he's real important to the way that offense runs. So, yeah.
I also like Gibbs. I like there's a few receptions. So, yeah, Gibbs is 3.5 and Josh Reynolds is 2.5. And I think with this Niners, I think Ward, I wonder if he'll shadow Seth Brown, and then you've got an opportunity against Thomas or any other cornerback to make some plays. And I know Reynolds banged me last week because I think I went for over 3.5, but over 2.5, I feel like he could get that as well.
Yeah, I love the Gibbs ladder for receiving and rushing yards. I think you touched on the rushing yards, Byron, but I think the combo of the receiving and rushing yards, because his rushing yards line is 47.5, rushing and receiving 74.5. You start to get to plus 265 for 100 rushing and receiving yards, plus 700 for 125 plus. He tends to be in that somewhere range of over 100 scrimmage yards. Doesn't have too many. I'm not sure he's had too many games over 150, but he's usually in that kind of 100, 120 range of all-purpose yards. So,
and yeah, just McCaffrey again at over 4.5 receptions. I love, and another long shot on the longest reception market. Just again, Christian McCaffrey plus 2,500. He can take a dump off to the house from anywhere. So, yeah, again, 2,500. I'm not going to put much on that, but I just like it as a fun one to track.
Yeah. Fantasy game day considerations. Well, there will be because there's only 2 games. So
yeah, I think I've already shouted out Kittle. I just think, like I mentioned before, he got plenty of points last week, and I think it'll be similar again. They'll target him. It's security blanket for quarterbacks.
Yeah, plus 4,900 for Kittle. CMC's, unsurprisingly, top player, 8,700.
I like to get Gibbs in there as well. So
yeah, I would say what could be a good play is what Byron's mentioned, that maybe not go put CMC in because everyone's going to be putting him in. But if the Lions have been able to hold running backs under 70 yards, you mentioned that. It might be a good shot not to have him in, so you've got money to go elsewhere.
Yeah,
and now it's got like 4 touchdowns now.
Yeah,
I'm sure you'll be fine if he does.
Yeah,
I feel like your captain's a tough one, because especially if you say potentially Ra St. Brown might get kind of, Ward might travel with him and shut him down. And then you're down to Pacheco, Gibbs as your captains.
I don't hate Ayuk as a captain.
Yeah.
To be differential. I think he's going to be the Niners' go-to this week. He'd be my pick anyway.
Oddly, I'm not suggesting that we do it, but I really like Travis Kelce as a captain.
I was going to say, I don't mind Kelce either, actually. He was going to be my next one. Kelce, Kittle, Ayuk, I think they're all going to be such differentials, because I think everyone's putting CMC in. You might get some Jahmyr Gibbs in there, but I like any of those three, and I would rather put in Gibbs than CMC. Again, CMC might score more points, but I think Gibbs is, he's going to be lower on certainly. And I think he has got that potential to get 2 touchdowns himself. And I think he's going to be so featured this week.
Yeah. Cool. Right, yo. That is our AFC and NFC Conference Championship previews.
Did we get all our actual picks on the record there? Never mind the spreads.
It's the last one, actually. Joe's made this lovely graphic. So just to confirm for the 2 games, Joe and Byron are on the Ravens, -3.5. I'm on the Chiefs. Actually, like I've said, Chiefs money line. I love Chiefs money line is, as we stand, +165. It's real good value. Chiefs.
You both
Dan's going to be real upset with me, by the way, from the Utter Punts podcast, because he's a big Baltimore Ravens fan.
If the Ravens win on Sunday, he won't much care what you picked.
Yeah, that's true, actually, yeah. But they'll be, also, if they lose, he might be dead mopey for the second game.
Well, that's why
I was just about to say, that's why I'm so happy the NFC is always a second game, because I'm looking forward to the Chiefs-Ravens, but if the 49ers lost, I think I might have just thrown the dummy out and be like, I'm not watching that. Fuck NFL, I don't care anymore.
Whoa.
So obviously me and Joe are taking the Ravens. Are you taking the Chiefs straight up, though? Obviously, you've just mentioned the money line there.
Yeah, I'm already on a money line.
I'm obviously taking the Niners, because I'm on them at -7. Who are you taking? Just, not for a bet. Just who do you think is going to be in the Super Bowl? Chiefs versus
Chiefs, Niners.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm same as well. I just think just how the Niners normally play, they still be a tight game. Last minute interception, something like that again.
I did have one last thing about why I'm so confident in the Niners, and we're getting into wacky territory, so my apologies. The last time the Niners lost at home in the playoffs, you probably remember the game, Joe, I would think. I'm not expecting you to name it, though. I mean, if you look like you're thinking, so if you want to have a guess, throw it out, but you can also go ahead, Paul. I mean, I'm not going to...
Oh, would it be the Giants?
Yes, Carl Williams, the muffed punt. But, I mean, that was a fluke, and I don't have a funny thing to go along with it. The previous time...
No?
2012, but 2011 season, Last time they lost at home in the playoffs. The prior time they lost at home in the playoffs was January 11, 1998 to Green Bay. Lost 23-10 at home in the playoffs. Do you know what was the UK number 1 that day?
January 1998.
January 11, 98, yeah. It's a banger, to be fair.
January 11. So...
You can tell with the film as well, if you'd like. I'll look them both up, because they're both, as it turns out, pretty bangers for their time.
The song's not from the film, though, no?
Correct.
Okay,
not related in any way.
So,
okay.
1998. Post Take That, post Spice Girls.
Correct. In fact, your catchphrase from today is kind of linked to it. Your catchphrase from earlier today is kind of...
All Saints? Never ever.
Yeah, All Saints, never ever. Great working that one out.
To be fair, yeah.
Yeah. And the UK number 1 movie I've never seen, actually, but I think everyone else has about 400 times.
January 98.
We can't have too much today because it's podcasting. But I'll give you a little clue here. Joe's going to be hoping that the Lions sink the...
Oh, Titanic.
Titanic, was number 1 on the time The Niners lost a legitimate playoff game because that Carl Williams fumble doesn't count because fuck the Giants.
I guess
we're back in January.
Number one could have been the song as well, I guess.
Yeah. Well, when you said it, I was like, oh yeah, I'm kind of surprised it wasn't Celine Dion because it was for so long around there. But yeah, it was actually All Saints Never Ever that week. But I've thrown my bullshit in, so feel free to move on. But I had those looked up, so I was like, we're going to throw them in somewhere.
You know what? Never seen Titanic. Never sat and watched Titanic.
Me neither. And I said that recently at work, and like, we've never seen it. I was like, oh no, it finishes. Like, it's not a smooth journey to New York, is it?
Spoiler alert.
3 hours for the boat to sink. Okay. Oh yeah, spoiler alert there. Sorry, maybe bleep
that. Right, we've done the games. Shall we just do a quick roundup of news? Because there's been, since we last did our episode, 4 of the vacancies filled. 3,
4, yeah,
4.
Yeah.
And also we need to talk about
5 really. I think the Falcons are expected to go ahead with one of them.
Yeah. So let's start then. I can't remember the order that they were filled. Tennessee Titans hired Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan to be their head coach to replace Mike Vrabel. This is Callahan's first head coaching job. What do we think of this one? Obviously, Callahan had done a pretty good job with Burrow. It was a rough year this year with Burrow being injured and stuff like that, but had been a pretty explosive offense the last few years. Good fit.
I almost think the Burrow injury might have got him the job because they were good with Jake Browning, and that's really a call of him doing a good job. I think. I don't know much about him. I must say, obviously, his dad is I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer, but he's one of the greatest O-line coaches in NFL history. So I imagine Brian Callahan knows how to run an organization as a head coach. He's been around it since he was probably, 2 years old, I imagine. So yeah, I don't have any doubts about him, certainly. I think it's probably a sensible enough hire for the Titans. I don't think they were getting a win now Jim Harbaugh or Bill Belichick type. So
yeah,
I was a bit surprised. It's because he didn't run the offense in Cincinnati, so obviously this is the first time he's going to be calling plays, which it's always a tricky thing. We always have like hot takes on coaches, and then some turn out, the case in point, Dan Campbell, everyone was taking the mick when he first joined, thinking like, who the hell have they hired this clown? And then look at him now. Yeah. And there's been plenty of coaches you've been like, well, he's a perfect fit. He ran that offense great. And then suddenly he's going into that. If he can get his dad in there as well to sort that offensive line, that would certainly help the Titans to be better because their offensive line has been trashed the last few years. We'll see how it goes. It sounds like they're going to go with Will Levis. I don't know if you saw that in some of the press conferences. That sounds like they're going ahead with that. So at least he'll have a year with him to decide where he's going to go with that.
I think Levis showed enough, didn't he, ultimately? So
yeah. I'm just curious. I think obviously it's got some negativity because it's a bit like you've gone from Vrabel, who has been a winner at the Titans, to an unknown guy. So he's going to be under pressure that way. But I feel like he's got a year to get things sorted. Obviously, hiring the right defensive coordinator is going to be massive. And it feels like they made a few changes upstairs as well. I think the GM is now Carl Thorne from, I think he was at the Niners. He's like the director of football now, and he's going to be looking over the staff. And so I think that's where the firing has come from Mike Vrabel. I understand they obviously had the meeting with the owners, but yeah, I feel like it wasn't a perfect pairing. So hopefully now the GM's hired the guy he wants. Hopefully it's a bit more smoother for them.
Yeah. Carolina Panthers have chosen their head coach in Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator Dave Canales. This one came out of left field, I think, for me when I saw this earlier on.
Yeah, I kind of thought Canales would have another year as being an OC before he got a job.
This is his first year, wasn't it?
The prior year he was the QB coach for Geno. So, I mean, if you look at that as 2 years back-to-back of Geno's becoming Geno Smith, getting paid, Baker Mayfield getting paid. It's a real good body of work, obviously. This would have been the last job I would take as a head coach of the jobs available. Dave Canales should take whatever job he can get as a head coach. So, I'm not saying he shouldn't have done it, but I hope he does great work with Bryce Young. I think there's too much going on in that organization to think he's going to be a success. So sadly, again, I'm always happy to be proven wrong, but I think it's probably going to be good for Bryce Young's development. I think there's too much going on in Carolina to think they're going to be a good team next year, though, because it's just a high into nothing. But I think it's good for Bryce Young, and yeah, Dave Canales should certainly take the shot when he gets it, because you never know when, what next year will bring. So,
well, yeah, exactly. There's been plenty of coordinators who you think, they're dead set for a head coach, and they'll stay for another year. There's been a few like the Bengals DC. He felt like he was going to be a shoo-in for a head coach in this year, but obviously that defense has not been as good, and you get banking that Baker's going to be good again next year. So that's a gamble. So and I think what you've just said, Byron, is why they've hired him, because he's turned around Geno Smith's career and Baker Mayfield as well. So if you can do it with them two, there's a possibility to do it with Bryce Young. And I think I saw some on the McAfee show today that the new GM, Dan Morgan, they were Seattle together for quite a number of years, so they know each other that way. So it's also like get your buddy in, that kind of thing. Because I think they started similar times and probably grew together in that term. So yeah, that's probably another big thing.
Morgan played.
Dan Morgan,
6 years, I think. Yeah, it was first.
Yeah, for the Panthers in his first round, I think. So,
I did enjoy on the Around the NFL podcast this week. They mentioned Dan Morgan. I don't remember him as a player, I must say. But at one point, he was a poster child for you shouldn't play through concussions. And I can't remember who it was on the podcast. Was like, not sure that's what I want in a general manager. So hopefully,
I think what people have said about him, is a bit like he's got like a Dan Campbell kind of attitude, but he's not as expressive as Dan Campbell. He's more measured. Yeah, he's more measured internally, but he's still got the same attitude as what Dan Campbell is, because he sounds like he's a similar kind of player when he was there.
Loves a kneecap. Couple more to talk about. One last night.
I was going to say, well, it's lucky he's in Carolina because his owner is kneecapping the team.
Oh dear.
He's going to throw a drink over me, I know it.
Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh. Michigan to the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, another fit. Jim Harbaugh was a quarterback at San Diego Chargers for a little bit. I mean, Joe, you've had experience of Harbaugh as a head coach. What can the Chargers look forward to?
Yeah, so he was the head coach when I started supporting the 49ers. So obviously that team got me into NFL and got me into a 49ers spotter. So I think what everyone's saying, he's just a winner. No matter where he's been. I think he was at San Diego Promotions or something like that in a college, and he was a winner there. Not expected. Stanford, they're not expected to be winners all the time. I think someone said a stat today that they beat USC once when they were 41 points underdogs, and they still managed to beat them. So I think wherever he's gone, he's always a winner. He's going to hopefully change the culture of the Chargers. I think that's what they need. They need that kind of head coach. I think we said this when this coaching job came about. I think we all said that Harbaugh would be perfect and he'll be the one that he wants, because I think he's going to be in control. He left the Niners because he couldn't work with the GMs, and there's been some rumors that it was close to a lot of other jobs the last few years in the NFL, but people just didn't really want to deal with what comes with Jim Harbaugh. But it's going to make the Chargers fun. It's going to make them relevant. It's going to, I think what Byron put in the group, it's bringing us back into the Chargers to be that fun, lovable team what everyone enjoys, because there's going to be plenty of explosive rants and fun on-field drama with being in the AFC West when you've got, you got Sean Payton and you got Reed and you got a few others. So it was great. I don't know if you saw that video of him and Jim Schwartz shaking hands in, I think it was the 49ers versus the Lions, and it all kicked off there because he just ran it in from cheer, like proper, got a handshake and slapped him on the back, and they were arguing. It's just that kind of attitude and stuff like that. So I think it's good for the Chargers. I'm curious how they're doing the first year, because I think they are a bit in a cap hell. So it might be a year or two, similar to like with Michigan, where he needs time to build that program up. And then, if it does what it does, then they're going to be a playoff team challenging for Super Bowls, because that's what he's always done wherever he's gone.
Yeah, he's basically, like I say, he's a winner wherever he's been. As I say, I'm with you. I think this might take 2 or 3 years, because that is the softest of soft teams. And to get what he wants, get him mean, get him nasty, build it in the trenches, you can't do that in a year. That's going to take time, and you need to get there's not a lot, I think, that's there in the Chargers now that he can work with.
I think what is kind of lucky is there, though, is Rashawn Slater is a great young tackle, and Justin Herbert is an incredibly talented quarterback, who I can't wait to see what him and Jim Harbaugh are like, because they don't seem like natural bedfellows.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert seems like one of the more chill quarterbacks to hang around with in the league, and Jim Harbaugh seems like he'd rip your throat out playing checkers. So,
and they've obviously got the 5th pick as well in the draft, which is they're either going to get like a top end wide receiver, or they might be tempted with the tackle from Notre Dame. So
Bowers,
Joe Al,
go for the best tight end in the country.
Yeah, Brock Bowers as well. Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple from that Michigan national championship team, because there's a lot of those guys that are declared for that have or are expected to declare for the draft. The running back Corum especially, because
I was literally about to say, should we just pencil Blake Corum in for the 3rd round pick to the Chargers? Because it's happening, right? Austin Eckler's a free agent.
Yeah.
Josh Kay and Isaiah Spiller have bought as much juice as us free. Blake Corum's going to be the starting running back next year.
I think, get guys you can trust, get guys that will deliver for you.
Ultimate Harbaugh.
And I was going to say, like, I understand what you're saying about the Chargers. They played soft, but I think sometimes that's more to do with the coaching and the actual scheme rather than the players. I think, they've got to the NFL, they've got to be some toughness in them. And we've seen plenty of teams where, you would say the Texans when they were playing the last few years, that defense has been shocking. And then you get, the new head coach comes in and it's a completely different team playing a different way. So,
and even just compare the Chargers from Brandon Staley's last game to the final couple of games under the interim head coach. That was a team that went from playing soft to playing tough enough football. They hung with the Bills in 2 weeks. Like, they'd give up on Brandon Staley. That's why they were so soft.
And the Chargers are going to charge under Harbaugh. That's the big thing.
That's what's so annoying, because I was so convinced, the five Brandon Staley, I'm out on the Chargers for a few years. They're in such a shitty situation. And it's like, Jim Harbaugh's such a fucking winner, though. I'll have them 12, 13 wins in August, no doubt. Great. Already regretting it. And I've made
wins or 15-2. What did you have them at?
I think it was 14, yeah. It was either 13 or 14, because I had the Chiefs winning the division still, so can't be 15. That'd be ridiculous.
Yeah. Let's head over to the NFC, and one that's that started to break while we've been recording is Raheem Morris to the Atlanta Falcons. And more importantly, not Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Morris, this is his second go around. He was a head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 3 years, 9, 10, and 11, I think.
Yeah, it feels like a lifetime ago. I mean, it is a long time ago.
It was interesting. I forgot when Dan Quinn got fired, he was the interim head coach. He was the defensive coordinator at Atlanta, and he stepped up to be the interim head coach after when they fired Dan Quinn.
I wonder if that's the longest period between an interim and being a permanent hire at the same franchise. Anyway, yeah, I really like Raheem Morris. He's obviously beloved around the league. Les Snead spoke so glowingly of him this week. And I always like when GMs and head coaches go out the way to praise their employees that are basically going to be leaving or probably going to be leaving, because, it's not benefiting them to praise Raheem Morris. If anything, it's harming their chances of keeping him. But, I'm speaking more about the Rams there as a thing, but I just think I just like when owners and GMs and coaches do that. Fascinating that it's not Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick went for 2 interviews, so he obviously wanted the job. The carousel's going without Bill Belichick this year, right? That's just kind of long and short of it. No one else is going for him.
We'll talk about that. I think I found it interesting that the Falcons were going for a defensive.
Mm-hmm. That's how I was thinking. But I wonder if it's like a flip flop, because they went attack offense last time, so we got a good defense. But I think they should have gone offense. I was shocked with this just because it was only announced a few hours ago that Bobby Slowick was having a second interview. It felt like it feels like everyone was having a second interview with the Falcons there. It was like every single, but he's going to a second interview. Obviously, the Belichick was announced first, and then I think Harbaugh declined basically the second. But then
10 second interviews.
Yeah. But apparently, Bobby Slowick impressed him that much. But it might help him just to stay with the Texans, and it might actually help the Texans keep that story going as well, which can't complain about. They have a good team there. But yeah, it was a surprise.
It's an odd one. I think that's 2.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
three that I wasn't expecting in Morris, Canales. Maybe not so much Callahan, but yeah.
But it's like funny because we were talking, I think we were just messaging like a week ago about, there's like so many of these positions have gone to like interim coaches. It seemed like there was, 6 or 7 either coordinators or, head coaches who have left who, they're surely going to get a job. And there's about 5 or 6 of them out of that like list of 8 that, they're not going to get a job anymore. Like you mentioned, like Vrabel as well. It's interesting.
So we're down to 2.
Seattle and Washington.
Washington Commanders and the Seattle Seahawks, who are still looking for their head coaches. And I'd say there's 3 front runners. And I don't know if, there's 3 big names, let's say. Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel, Dan Quinn.
I think you're missing one there.
Who have I missed?
The next Washington Commanders head coach, Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson, okay.
Who I think is dead set to be the Commanders head coach.
So are Vrabel and Belichick just going to sit out?
Unless Vrabel gets the Seattle job, but I think that's going to be DQ. And I think that's an odd appointment, but I think it's going to be Dan Quinn. And yeah, I think it's crazy because, the day I think we recorded the day Vrabel was fired, right? Or the day after. And it was like, well, he's going to be first in line for whatever job, really. Mm. And then he obviously didn't get New England because of the Jared Mayo, heir apparent contract.
Yeah.
And now here we are, like the carousel's going to finish spinning in 6 days. Yeah. And I think Belichick's almost certainly not getting a job. And I don't think Vrabel is either. Very surprising.
Yeah.
I think one person I've just mentioned him, but Bobby Slowick to Commanders could happen just because the 49ers assistant GM is now the Commanders GM. Mm-hmm. So obviously there's a connection there from Bobby Slowick being in the Niners all them years. So I'd be curious if it's in between him and Ben Johnson, does he go with someone who he knows and he's worked with a number of years? And one for Seattle, which I understand the Dan Quinn side of it, the history and whatnot, but I don't know why they're not going for the Ravens DC. Is it McDonald?
McDonald, yeah.
Because what has he done what most defenses have not been able to do? Is stop the Shanahan trees offenses. Whoever's played and which division has the most Shanahan kind of offenses? The NFC West with the Rams
and the 49ers. Shanahan offense.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like just shocked that he hasn't had an opportunity that like all this. The league is basically looking for, because I think a bit like Callahan, I think he's from, obviously he's part of the tree from Sean McVay's tree or something like that. They're all like from, Shanahan Senior tree of coaches. So most teams are trying to get that kind of offense coordinator as their head coach, but why don't you go for the guy who's shown he can stop it? So
I'll give you one reason why. There's a cap on the number of Mike Mc coaches, the NFL head coaches that can be at any one time. Because we don't need a third. Mike McCarthy, Mike McDaniel. We're not having any more.
I'm happy for them to sacrifice Mike McCarthy to give Seattle what they need.
Mike, to be fair, but...
I can also fire him as well as sacrifice him, but whatever gets him out of the seat is fine. Did you see? Sorry, just talking about Washington Commanders there. So Vic Fangio let go mutually with the Dolphins. I think he's going to land with the Eagles as DC has been rumored. Ron Rivera interviewed for that job.
What, for the defensive coordinator of the Eagles?
Yeah, does that not strike anyone else as like super weird? That
why
is he not just taking a year off?
Yeah, isn't he? And they all part of Andy Reid's coaching tree.
Who
Ron Rivera was, and I think was the Eagles head coach. So they've all buddy.
Sirianni.
Sirianni part? Was he part of the Chiefs or not?
I don't think he was. No, he was the Chargers, I believe, prior to the Eagles.
Okay.
Maybe the Colts and the Chargers. I think he was the Chargers head coach from a while ago. North Turner, maybe tree. Does North Turner have a tree?
Too much tree talk. Right, let's
Philip Rivers tree.
Let's end this tree talk and end the episode. Gentlemen, thank you, Joe, Byron, as always. That was our NFL Conference Championship picks and preview episode of Good Teams Win Great Teams Cover. We'll be back on Monday, I think, on Monday, Tuesday, with a review of the 2 games, and we'll start having a very early look ahead to Super Bowl 58. Reminder, we'll be helping out the Utter Punts guys in Manchester, Manchester Bierkeller, Conference Championship Watch Party, Tickets for a £5 are available now through Eventbrite. The link will be in the episode description. It'll also be all over our Instagram, Twitter. Go get your tickets now. Starts at 6:30. We'll be there with analysis, previews, picks, games, giveaways throughout the evening. I'll be helping Dan and Liam from the Utter Punts podcast hosting, so it should be a good one. Be great to see you down there if you're in the northwest Manchester.
You're willing to have your picture taken with the regular people as well, Paul, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I'll even sign some things.
Wow, man of the people.
I'm not above that. Rightio. As a reminder, go give us a follow. Spotify, Good Teams Win Great Teams cover to be notified of new episodes. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, X, TikTok. Are we getting some Charlie? Are we getting Charlie picks this week?
Probably not. So Charlie, not to be a bummer here, Charlie's not very well.
No.
So he has kidney stones.
Oh, bless him.
He's on a low treat diet right now.
Did we give Charlie kidney stones from all the picks we made today? Charlie
gets plenty of treat. I don't think it was the picks. So yeah, thankfully it's snowing around here, which is a sentence I didn't think I'd say to my. This is a great way to end the show, by the way. I know people love Charlie, so I can see if there's any piss in his blood because he pees on the snow.
Nice.
Which again, it's a hidden benefit of it snowing in Chicago.
Do you mean blood in his piss?
Yeah.
Do you mean blood in his piss?
I'm not sure what I said, but that is what I mean. Yes.
Yeah. You said piss in his blood.
Oh, okay. I was like, what could I have said there? Obviously, yeah. And it's great, especially like take him out at 11 o'clock at night, and I'm shining my pissing, literally, phone light on the snow mounds to make sure there's no blood in it. But yeah, he's in for surgery next Friday. He'll be back on treats by the Super Bowl. But yeah, he's off treats for now. So
bye week for Charlie.
Yeah.
Get well soon, Charlie. Yeah, that sucks. We'll end on that note. So yeah, we'll be back with our review, and then we'll start building up to the Super Bowl. So thanks very much for watching and listening. Hopefully we'll see you in Manchester on Sunday. And gentlemen, I'll see you next week.
Cheers.